This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion.
Good evening. For too long, we in Washington have been lying to you. We say we're here to serve you when in fact, we're serving ourselves. And why? We are driven by our own desire to get reelected. Our need to stay in power eclipses our duty to govern. That ends tonight. Tonight, I give you the truth. And the truth is this. The American dream has failed you. Work hard, play by the rules. You aren't guaranteed success. Your children will not have a better life than you did. 10 million of you can't even get a job, even though you desperately want one. We've been crippled by Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, by welfare, by entitlements. And that is the root of the problem. Entitlements. Let me be clear. You are entitled to nothing. You are entitled to nothing. America was built on the spirit of industry. You build your future. It isn't handed to you.
Frank Underwood at his best. You are entitled to nothing. You are entitled to nothing. I would argue, for the limited time that you have on this planet, if you can believe that deep in your bones, that you are entitled to nothing, then, and only then, do you have a chance for success. A chance for a real success of your making that involves freedom, that doesn't involve sitting in an office cube for the rest of your life saying yes, sir, to a blank. My thoughts today revolve around decision making. How do we decide? I want to use some touchstone cultural examples that are all the rage around the world these days. I don't care what the issue is. The PC culture, the political correct culture, has convinced millions upon millions of people, perhaps billions, that they are entitled to something. They are entitled to money. They are entitled to respect. They are entitled to whatever they deem to be entitled to. How did they get this entitlement? Their sheer existence. That's all that it takes to qualify. Well, of course, we can all sit back and we can look at that in the abstract and we can say, well, of course, this doesn't work. In the long run, it breaks down. Who wants that kind of a life? Being attached to a government agent, a government agency that takes care of you from cradle to grave. No one wants that. But plenty of people have been seduced. They've gone the wrong direction. They've lost their moral compass. And this political correct culture that we live in, what I fondly call a lynch mob culture, definitely does not help people to make decisions. Making decisions is about you. It's not about your neighbor. Who cares about your neighbor? Yes, you can care about your neighbor in the abstract, but you really don't take care of your neighbor. What are you going to do? Who can you take care of? You can take care of yourself. You can take care of your family, your friends. You can give to charity. Beyond that, it's all sanctimonious bullshit. I would argue that the PC culture, the PC war, the political correctness that's run amok is the exact same mentality as a market bubble, as a parabolic move. It's a group just running not necessarily with direction, as fast as they can to meet some unknown goal, to get rich, to feel good about themselves, whatever it might be. I would argue that today, the rise of Donald Trump as a viable politician has absolutely nothing to do with his positions. It has to do with the guy brings a certain confidence, a certain linguistic persuasion, and he doesn't care what he says. Of course, we all know some of the things he says are frankly rude, but he speaks the truth as he sees it. And that speaking the truth as he sees it has fascinated millions of people because it's become so unexpected. We don't see it anymore. Everything is rehearsed. Everything is versed. Everything is laid out on this magic carpet ride towards correctness, where it's all one big kumbaya group hug. I bring this back to decision making. How does this help you to decide to make the right decisions for your life? Forget only the markets. I mean, that's something I'm interested in. But how does this help you, this political correctness, how does this help you for your life's decisions? Let me start with a great clip from comedian Jerry Seinfeld. Seinfeld goes right into the heart of the matter.
Does the climate worry you now? I've talked to Chris Rock and Larry the Cable Guy. They don't even want to do college campuses anymore.
I hear that all the time. I don't play colleges, but I hear a lot of people tell me don't go near colleges. They're so PC. Here, I'll give you an example. My daughter's 14. My wife says to her, well, you know, in the next couple of years, I think maybe you're going to want to hang around the city more on the weekends so you can see boys. You know, my daughter says, she says, that's sexist.
Isn't that, you know, it's amazing.
That, they just want to use these words. That's racist. That's sexist. That's prejudice. They don't even know what they're talking about.
Does it hurt comedy?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Artie Lang said this the other day. He said, I got nothing against Bruce Jenner, but can't I have 5 or 6 seconds to kind of figure out how to contextualize it? I do need a little time. I can't see him on the cover of a magazine and then immediately be, okay, I'm going to embrace this. He goes, don't I get 5 seconds anymore to kind of go, all right, let me get my... Louis C.K. went on Saturday Night Live. It was controversial. You've stayed away from controversy, but Louis does a lot of theater stuff. I wonder if it worries Louis.
No. Louis' great gift is he doesn't worry. He just does his thing. If I wanted to say something, I would say it. You got to go. You know, everybody has their hot zone. You know, you got your heat map, and that's the jokes you do. For me, it's the subject. I talk about the subjects I talk about because for some reason I can make them funny. The ones I can make funny, you don't hear.
If you are sitting out there right now, and let's say you're just thinking like an investor, the only reason you're listening to me is for the investing mindset, for investing insights, for trading insights. But if you find yourself disagreeing with a Seinfeld, if you find yourself not understanding why he is saying what he is saying, I would ask you to take a step back and to think about the idea of investing is more than just the rule. The rule of when you buy, the rule of when you sell, how much to bet on each trade, what your diversified portfolio should look like. It's more than just that. It's the psychology. It's the thinking. How could you honestly expect to apply a rigid set of rules that are rational and logical, and you're going to stick with them, but you don't understand what Seinfeld just said? You don't have the psychology figured out yet. You don't know yourself yet. If you don't know yourself, you can have all of the rules in the world. They will do you zero good. Let me take it a step further with Bill Maher and comedian Jeff Ross as they talk about Seinfeld's original comments.
I move on. I have to ask you one more question, get your take on this. I'm going to address this next week because it really pissed me off, as anything about political correctness does. But I'm sure you saw our colleague Jerry Seinfeld this week made a statement about how colleges are too politically correct. And by the way, if Jerry Seinfeld is too politically incorrect for you, maybe you should look in the mirror. What is your thoughts on this?
I appreciate Jerry, who's not necessarily thought of as an edgy comedian, sticking up for comedy as an art form. I mean, why do comedians have to water down? Comedy is medicine. It's the best medicine. Laughter. You don't want it generic. You want it potent. We have a responsibility to shine a light on the darkest aspects of society. And by the way, Jerry Seinfeld not performing at colleges anymore. There's a lot of hot chicks, good money at colleges. A groan's as good as a laugh. Let's go. Come on.
A terrible answer.
Part of it is just having fun.
No, but do you think it's a generational thing? Do you think it's a liberal conservative thing? Because liberals are definitely more PC.
Right.
I mean, I used to fight with this audience all the time because we used to get the audience strictly from liberal sources.
Right.
Then we got the audience like from everywhere. And I've had a much better time the last couple of months.
It's good for you. You have a great crowd. People are sensitive.
Yeah. Too sensitive.
Why do people have to... Comedians shouldn't have to adapt to change to PC. People that are too sensitive should become more thick-skinned.
You know what it is?
I once did a show for sensitive people. They wanted to become better at taking a joke. That's what was so great about roasting criminals. I was curious if they would laugh at themselves. I think that's the first step towards rehabilitation. And some of these PC police should try that. Laughing, not taking themselves so seriously, not taking everything so seriously.
Let me add one more clip from Bill Maher that really goes in to the insanity that is starting to exist on college campuses.
What a time to have the name Caitlin, huh?
It is, really. I'm going by Bruce now.
It probably wasn't a problem for like the first 20-something years of your life.
There were other problems with it, but this is a new dimension.
I know. Okay, well, we won't talk about that. I really wanted to have you on because when I read your article, I said, oh my gosh, this is the person who's going to continue this discussion. I didn't start. Some other people did. I've mentioned it before about how college kids have no sense of humor, and then Jerry Seinfeld said something, Chris Rock chimed in, Larry the Cable Guy said, I don't play colleges anymore, they're too politically correct. You delve into why, so I really want you to explain that. Why are the college students so politically correct?
Why they're so politically correct now? Well, they're the inheritors of 30 years of identity politics, and that's part of the problem.
What is that?
That means that, you know, instead of saying we all have general principles by which we live and seek to sort of understand our lives, that I'm going to stand up for the feminist cause, I'm going to stand up for a particular racial or ethnic cause, and I'm going to fiercely guard that and completely stand on the side of that issue.
Tribal.
Yes, it is rather tribal.
So tribal, aren't we?
And I think that, you know, I don't blame the kids for this. A lot of people really demonize the kids.
It's the parents, right?
I think so, because, you know, when kids come to college, when they come to any school, they are, you know, by definition, they're ignorant. They don't know anything yet. And it is the moral obligation of their teachers, of the adults who work in that institution, to teach them something, to relieve them of this great burden of ignorance. But there are so many professors who have completely abdicated that position and have just cravenly ceded to whatever these poor kids who don't know anything yet, what they come and say, they're just reinforced by the professors, and the whole system is now being run by these kids who are paying the tuitions that pay the salary.
Well, that's a great point that you make, that probably our idea, you and I, of college is outdated. We thought it was an institution where you learn and explore, and it's really all about keeping the kids paying the tuition.
It is. It's become a country club.
Right.
They spend a tremendous amount of money, which many of them can't afford. That's sort of an immoral aspect of it as well. They kind of lure these kids in with their wonderful gyms and their farm-to-table dining and their idiot, politically correct sort of, you know, humanities curriculum. And the kids end up with these staggering debts that they have to somehow pay off, and with this ridiculous sort of sense of, you know, I'm not saying that the ideas that each of them hold is necessarily a bad idea, but when we were young, you know, I grew up in Berkeley, and, you know, I saw, my father was a college professor, the kids who had, you know, really progressive ideas, they had skin in the game. They were getting estranged from their parents. They were leaving school. They were eating kind of brown rice in apartments around Berkeley. They were paying a tremendous personal cost for these political beliefs. But nowadays, these kids, mom and dad write huge checks. They're extremely privileged. They're extremely pampered. And they run around complaining that they're the victim of these microaggressions.
Right. Yes. They need trigger warnings in case someone says something awful.
And they think that we're sort of these horrible, crass people who don't understand the great beauty of life that they do, and that we don't understand when we're giving microaggressions against them.
Right.
But if you and I went to the South Bronx and we found some 19-year-olds there, and we said, how much of your day do you spend worrying about microaggressions?
Right.
They wouldn't know whether to laugh or cry, because they know that we live in a violent country with a gun problem.
Yes. You know who else doesn't care about them? Doctors Without Borders, because they're actually doing something to help the world. Yeah.
Right.
Not just sitting on the internet like, virtual vigilantes pointing out the bad person.
Exactly. And again, I don't hold them responsible. It's the nature of youth that you don't know much yet.
Right.
But the people who teach there should be instructing them that they should have free speech, they should have an ability to inquire, they should be able to ask any question, they should be able to write anything and subject themselves to the academic or rigorous intellectual discipline, and that's largely gone.
Now, I disagree with her completely on one main point. These kids are sure as hell responsible for their own actions. They're responsible for how they think. Because if you go through college completely PC and you do not have the ability to think or decide for yourself, then you are a part of the matrix. You will accept whatever the feeding tube gives you for the rest of your life. Let me phrase it this way. Let's say you're in your 20s right now and you want to trade. You want to be an investor. You want to find some great success. It's got to be terribly exciting to realize that many of your peers are so impressionable that they will do anything that they are told by whatever power source they are told to do whatever. As a trader, that has to be exciting that so many people will just go along. And think about all of the awful investment products that will be sold in the years to come to people that know no better, to people that don't ask questions, to people that just blindly trust because it sounds PC. Again, my idea with this entire episode was to get people thinking about decision making. If you do not have clarity of mind, how can you decide on the appropriate way to take any risk in your life? I read something the other day that said young kids in preschool are becoming so unusual, so odd, that they walk around and bump into each other. They bump into walls. Kids in preschool are falling out of their chairs 3 and 4 times a day. They can't focus. They can't concentrate at all. Now, this episode is to talk about college kids. Now, think about the preschool kids. They're completely gone. I mean, the preschool teachers are saying they have never seen a situation where kids are walking around bumping into walls, bumping into each other. It's these big picture, awful control mechanisms. You can't express any outlook that doesn't fall in line with the harmonious worldview. Microaggressions, language police, progressive, today's times. Minority means you're a good person. Majority group means you're a bad person. Diversity, a marginalized individual. Offensive language, privilege, problematic language. I saw this quote the other day after watching the South Park episode called Stunning and Brave, all about PC culture. Quote, being part of an oppressed minority does not automatically make one good, well-intentioned, or correct. And likewise, knowing the social justice script by heart does not necessarily mean you're making the world more just, end quote. Throw it right back at me. Say, Mike, what does this have to do? We all know this. No, people don't all know this. That's why I've curated this episode to make this logical point. That as an investor, as a trader, you need clarity. It's not just your system, it's your mind. It's two in conjunction together. I think back to the famous Ed Seykota quotation, and I paraphrase, everyone gets what they want. That's all mind. 100% gray matter, 100% neurological. Everyone gets what they want, which means quite clearly that if you want to be at the top of a bubble in a buy and hold strategy, you are getting exactly what you want because that's where you are. If you have a trading strategy that takes concern about bubbles, has an entry and exit mechanism, uses risk management, doesn't trust the system, you're getting what you want. Does that mean you can control the outcome? Of course not. We can all only control the process. But I bring up that quote from Sakota, and I look at the excerpts that I played today from Seinfeld and Bill Maher. It's about good thinking. It's about good decision making. And if you don't have that, it's incompatible with good trading. It's incompatible with good investing. You might as well stop. Don't listen to someone like me. Don't read books from a guy like me. Don't even bother to look at the higher levels of how investing and trading really works. Just trust the system. And your kids will run around bouncing into walls in preschool because they're so friggin' brain dead. To be clear, though, my views on political correctness, they dovetail exactly with what I've talked about today with the excerpts that I've played. But I don't care about your perception of me. I don't care about your cause. I don't care about your club. I don't get energized when you tell me it's the flavor of the week, the PC flavor of the week. Not my world. We're all going to die. We all have limited time. And I'm not paying attention to whatever agenda you're throwing at me. I have my ethics. I have my cause. I know how to lead a right life. And if you want me to follow some script, if you want me to follow some rules that you've made up, that your group has made up, which are really just all about gathering power, I'm not going to play ball. I'm under no constraint to play by your rules or even acknowledge them. I would argue every serious entrepreneur, every serious trader, investor, you are under no obligation to do anything other than the right thing by your rules. Yes, of course, there are ethics and norms that we all know going back thousands of years. Do the right thing. Don't hurt other people. I'm not trying to discount that. But the latest and greatest craze of today, the thing to distract you, to take you away from your focus, don't pay attention. It's all an agenda. Stay focused on your cause. Think about trading and investing as two parts. It's the system, it's the process on one side, it's your mind on the other. And yes, political correctness, as defined by Jerry Seinfeld and Bill Maher, two great perspectives that I've played on this podcast, goes directly to your success in the course of your lifetime, because it is about clear thinking. And if there's no clear thinking, forget it. Just take the pill and fall asleep and wake up when it's all done. I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.